I'm Pat Doris. Welcome to The Story. Tonight, we're starting out with a look at a most unusual ad campaign. It targets the Multnomah County DA, commissioners from the county, and the sheriff as well. It's an effort to put pressure on them to do more about Portland's crime problems. And that is our big story tonight. For most of the 32 years that I've worked in Portland, the Multnomah County DA's office has kept a pretty low profile, but that's changed now. And I don't mean they're trying to get into the spotlight. I mean the spotlight is being shined on them, and more specifically on the DA, Mike Schmidt. The privately funded group called People for Portland is targeting Schmidt with a series of negative ads. Here's one of them.
Under the policies of DA Mike Schmidt, we have record shootings and murders. And while jail beds sit empty, too many crimes like vandalism and burglary go unprosecuted. Portland is a Schmidt show. Take action to save it.
Okay, that's pretty strong stuff. A few of you have emailed us about this, asking who's behind it and if the claims are true. We'll pull it apart and look at each claim in a moment. But first, let's hear from Dan Levy. He's one of the organizers of the group People for Portland.
Well, Portland is a Schmidt show. And the fact that an elected official, like the elected DA, is a part of the problem rather than a part of the solution is frankly unacceptable. And we need change in policies now. We need more prosecutions. We need empty jail beds that are open. And we need a DA who does more than hold a press conference and without offering any new solutions to make Portland safe again.
Dan Levy there has a deep background in Oregon politics, mostly on the Republican side. He's trying to use his knowledge of politicians to help regular folks put pressure on Portland's elected leaders and get them to take action. People for Portland has been around for about 2 years now. He said it has 1,500 people donating money to the group and 18,000 who've shared their email address. Now to the claims. First, that DA Schmidt is not prosecuting enough crimes. I asked his office for comment today, but have not heard back from them. Instead, I got a statement from the county. It contained a report from Schmidt that he sent out in early February. In it, he points out that the number of cases sent to his office by Portland police has fallen sharply compared to before the pandemic. He stated that police send just 35% of the misdemeanor cases now that they did between 2016 and 2019. He writes most of those reductions involve traffic crimes, and by the way, Portland police don't have a traffic unit anymore, so there's probably not a lot of traffic crimes being charged. Theft, okay, yes, we've seen the rampant shoplifting going on, and trespassing and possession of controlled substances. Now, just below that, he points to the obvious that ballot measure 110 decriminalized possession of user amounts of drugs, which probably made up most of those possession charges. And on top of that, Arkyla Boshi has reported that Schmidt is prosecuting less than half of the misdemeanor cases, theft cases, that are brought to him. Okay, so there's that. Now, some background on Mike Schmidt. He campaigned as a criminal justice reformer and won election in 2020 by a huge margin, a landslide. More than 70% of the vote went to him. But he also ticked off a lot of folks when he announced in August of 2020 that he would not prosecute more than 520 people who were charged in the protests. They were accused of interfering with a police officer and other lesser crimes. Levy, who's funded by some wealthy Oregonians, said a lot of people are still mad about that and a lot of people want change.
Yeah, we're funded by Oregonians and Portlanders who care deeply about Portland and the future of this city and the future of the state. I'm born and raised here. You know, a lot of people are heartbroken about what is happening to our city and state. And our elected officials, they sign up for these jobs. They run for these jobs. They ask for these jobs. They need to be a part of the solution, not a part of the problem.
The group is also taking aim at the sheriff and the Multnomah County commissioner seen here for not using all the available jail beds and leaving dangerous people out on the streets. County spokeswoman Julie Sullivan Springhetti said the premise of the ad campaign is wrong, that the county is not operating under any limited jail capacity, and that Multnomah County has funded 1,117 jail beds for several years. Well, sort of. I did some research, and I guess it depends on what you mean by several years. 10 years ago, the county funded 1,310 jail beds. It stayed at that level until 2017. Then the county cut funding, and we saw it show up the next year. A county budget note states the most significant change to general fund programs is the phasing out of 118 jail beds. It's an effort to reduce reliance on jail bed use in the local public safety system. So then the number of jail beds went down to 1,192, and it stayed there until 2021, when the county board again cut 75 beds this time, taking the number down to 1,117 beds. The budget note says it's part of the public safety reform efforts, and it has stayed that way ever since. So, are there fewer jail beds than 10 years ago? Absolutely yes, 193 fewer. Are we seeing record shootings and murders? Yes, at least we did last year. Are there too many jail beds sitting empty? Well, that's up for you to decide. There are fewer beds, and about 30% of the existing beds are not being used, so they are open. Are there too many crimes going unprosecuted? Well, you're going to have to be the judge of that one as well. By the way, I did ask Levy if his group is trying to recall Schmidt or get someone else to run against him. He said no, that the law his group is formed under does not allow them to campaign or support anyone. In the meantime, the Oregonian today is reporting that longtime senior district attorney Nathan Vasquez is considering running against his boss in the upcoming 2024 election. And we'd love to hear your thoughts on this, People for Portland campaign. Do you think Mike Schmidt should continue, or do you agree with the ad? Or maybe you're just upset that political ads are already here so soon. Oh my gosh, let us know. Send us an email, will you, to thstory@kgw.com, or call and leave a voicemail, 503-226-5090. All this week, we're checking in with counselors in the Portland Public School District, and we're talking about the mental health of students. Last night, we visited Sitton Elementary in North Portland. Tonight, we're heading to the West Sylvan Middle School in Southwest Portland. Christine Pitawanich has our story.
We all have like some personal stuff that we have at home that most teachers don't even know about.
It's hard to balance like sports, school, and like outside life, like with your family.
Students in middle school are in a tough spot, stuck between being a kid and transitioning to a teenager.
We are trying to find who we are. Sometimes we change in a way that doesn't work for people around us.
These kids at West Sylvan Middle School say there just doesn't seem to be enough time in the day for everything on their plate.
There's just so much going on. Like, you can't get your work done. You're mad about that. You didn't get enough sleep.
I see kids having a harder time focusing, but I've also seen like quite a few kids that are feeling suicidal. I've had more kids in poverty than we've had in a long time, especially at this school. Houselessness, needing more support in a variety of ways. Hi, Dory.
It's school counselor Rebecca Cohen's job to help the students here. She was named Oregon School Counselor of the Year for 2022, and with little Norma in tow, the duo walk the halls every day.
And say hi to kids and greet them. Hi. We do lunch duty.
During passing time, Norma gets lots of love. Kids will even take her on walks. Norma's presence is very intentional, helping students with their mental health just by being available for pets and hanging out.
Sometimes kids like dogs better than people.
And it's not just Norma making a difference here.
Part of being great educators is teaching kids to manage their stress. So that is like a huge part of my job.
Recently, West Sylvan was in the news when a 13-year-old black student getting a drink of water in the hallway was assaulted. Two students threw him to the ground, tied his hands behind his back, and kneeled on him to reenact George Floyd's death. His father was, of course, horrified.
I was flabbergasted. I was outraged. I was angry.
He went public with the story when he felt the school and district didn't do all they could to address the seriousness of what happened. KGW has been covering classrooms in crisis since 2019, diving deep into the outbursts and sometimes physical or violent behavior in our schools. We've also talked about potential solutions. Teachers told us it went to another level last year when they returned to school in person from the pandemic.
The behaviors we're seeing are violent to a level that I haven't seen in years past.
But this year seems to be different, despite that headline-making incident at West Sylvan. Cohen says overall it's been calmer than last year.
How was that?
Still, there's a huge effort to connect with kids.
We've had to be so creative in order to reach kids.
Cohen says there are more than 40 clubs at the school, and about half are new. Groups she and her team have created so students can feel more connected to the school and with each other.
I have an equity group that I run. I do a Hopes and Dreams club. I'm involved in the Gender Sexuality Alliance. Everything I'm telling you is something that I've created with my team since the pandemic, because we realized that kids, more than anything, need community.
Also this year, Cohen says every day students have 30 minutes carved out, dedicated to helping them develop interpersonal and academic skills.
We do things like teaching communication skills, how to talk to your teacher, how to talk to each other when you have a conflict.
I think that's important. We do have those times where we just kind of like all talk about how we feel and let those emotions out.
Cohen and her team doing everything in their power to positively impact the roughly 700 students who attend West Sylvan.
Just the best job ever. It's a big job. We have a lot to do. It's very joyful for me.
Yes.
In Southwest Portland, Christine Pitawanich, KGW News.
And make sure to tune in tomorrow for Christine's story with the counselors at Lincoln High School in Southwest Portland. Then on Friday, we'll bring Christine back and get her takeaways in this series, as well as look at some of your thoughts on all this. Let's continue talking about PPS for a moment now. An interesting idea was floated at their school board meeting last night. Board members had proposed limiting public comment at the board meetings. They wanted to only hear from people who were there to comment on an item that was on the agenda. You might think it's always that way, but oh, no, it is not. If you've ever been to a public meeting, well, you know they can get a little bit feisty. This was a school board meeting over possible COVID vaccine mandates at PPS back in 2021. People going off topic is routine at Portland City Hall. Just today, for example, homelessness was not on the agenda, but people who insisted on talking about it had to be escorted out.
As long as RVs and vehicles are being used as housing, much less
Excuse me. Last week we went through this. He's speaking. Then you need to leave. We'll take a 3-minute recess while they are vacated from the chamber.
Several protesters were removed from the meeting room. One of them got into a scuffle with a security guard. This was the second week the protesters came to City Hall and shut the meeting down. It's not always like that at public meetings, though. Sometimes they can feel pretty boring. But there are times when it becomes kind of like an open mic night for people to air all of their grievances, and usually that does happen during the public comment session. Back to last night's PPS School Board meeting and the idea of limiting that public comment to agenda items. Board members had a few reasons for their proposal. They wanted to keep the meeting shorter. Sometimes they can go on for hours. They wanted to hear more from students rather than adults, and they wanted to hear how things on the agenda would affect people without getting muddied by a lot of other topics.
We really wanted to do what we could to encourage some additional engagement on some of the other items, even items that we take votes on, such as our budget, which is one of the most important things the board does. We get very, very few public comments. My theory on that, and I may be wrong about this, my theory on that is that we often don't get to those agenda items until very late. So we start our meetings at 6, we go through a lot of the proclamations and so forth beforehand, we have a lot of general public comment, and sometimes there were times we were taking budget votes at 11 or 11:30 at night. There was one board meeting where we literally were in session till after midnight, which I don't think is appropriate. And I think that is not a way to have a transparent government. It's not okay to expect our constituents who want to know what we're doing to stay up or even to be there in person at those hours. And so we've been trying to figure out, Gary and Director Vice Chair Hollins and I have been trying to figure out ways to both speed up the meetings and also move some of that stuff forward.
Well, the idea to limit public comment didn't fly. It was dropped pretty much before it had a chance to go anywhere. Board members said they heard from a lot of people who told them that the idea would mean that the board might never hear about what they think are some very important issues. Last night, they heard about online schooling, baseball fields, custodians, and school safety, none of which were on the agenda.
I think public comment is also a way to build public trust. When workers, students, family members testify at the board, often they do so as a last resort. Many of us have written emails or had meetings with one of the many layers of management to attempt to solve problems, but we're ignored or we fall to the bottom of a inbox. I do believe that this decision, it sounds like, was made thinking pragmatically, not necessarily politically, but that's the beauty of public comment. You have the space to hear different perspectives that you may not have realized existed, and they can inform your decisions and make those decisions more inclusive.
For now, the board is working on rearranging the structure of the meeting so that they hear more from students first and then take on agenda items. And for now, they said they plan to keep general public comment opportunities in place.
Up next on the story, a bill to allow motorcyclists to go between cars during gridlock on freeways has many of you divided.
I'm totally opposed to lane splitting. We should absolutely allow lane splitting.
The bill passed 2 years ago, but was vetoed by then Governor Kate Brown. Where does it stand now, and how can you make your opinion heard in Salem instead of just on our airwaves? We'll explain when the story returns.
Let's talk some more about the motorcycle lane splitting bill that we featured last night. Senate Bill 422 is the name of it. It would allow motorcycle riders to go in between cars and lanes under very specific circumstances. It's only on freeways and only when traffic is slowed down, going less than 10 miles an hour. And in order to drive around the cars, the motorcycles themselves would not be allowed to go more than 10 miles an hour. Motorcycle riders have been trying to get it legalized to do that for years. 2 years ago, they got very close. A bill to legalize lane splitting did pass the legislature with bipartisan support, but former Oregon Governor Kate Brown vetoed it due to safety concerns. So now the bill's back, with advocates hoping that new legislators and a new governor will be the right mix for them. Hundreds of people have submitted testimony to lawmakers overwhelmingly in support of the measure. But when we asked you for your feedback, it was mostly negative.
I'm totally opposed to lane splitting. It's hard enough to see motorcycles in a lane. When they're in between lanes, it's virtually impossible. It drives me crazy whenever I drive in California. I'm afraid I'm going to kill somebody. This bill should die. Thank you.
Connie says lane splitting is a terrible idea for all concerned. We heard from a number of bikers themselves, like Mark, who said, no lane splitting. I've ridden motorcycles for 44 years. As a car driver and motorcycle rider, I've had motorcycles split lanes when I'm in my car. It always surprises me, which in no way makes the rider safer. By the way, that's happened to me too. And here's what Robert had to say. It's stupid. Every time they give one group, i.e. bicyclists or pedestrians, now motorcyclists, exemptions on the road rules, it adds to the things that regular motorists have to watch out for. Share the road should include share the rules. Some big name organizations are also against this bill. The Portland Bureau of Transportation opposes lane splitting, citing safety concerns and the practice spilling into city streets. They added that 46 motorcyclists have died in the city over the past 5 years. And AAA is against it as well. They filed testimony against the bill in Salem, also worried about safety, saying that 95 motorcyclists have died in Oregon last year alone. But some of you who approve of this bill say the stats from PBOD and AAA are not focused on the lane splitting issue.
I'd like to posit my support for the proposed bill to allow motorcycle lane filtering. I used to do this for a living in California as a courier, and I did it in London, England for 3 years. The people against it, like the Portland Bureau of Transportation and AAA, posit statistics that have absolutely nothing to do with motorcyclists dying doing lane splitting.
All right, thank you, Martin. Love your accent, by the way. Colin says, I've ridden motorcycles for many years in countries where the practice is legal. It is safe when practiced properly. Drivers, motorcyclist education, and adequate enforcement, the latter sadly lacking in Portland. They're all key.
We should absolutely allow lane splitting. It's far safer for a motorcycle. It's a much better alternative for us motorcyclists than having to sit behind cars and having people run into you because they can't see you. So let's get that passed.
And there are always those of you who are on the fence on these key issues, seeing some positives, maybe some negatives, and basically both sides, but wanting specific adjustments made to the bill.
In regards to motorcycle splitting lanes, I'm not opposed to it. However, I believe they need to take full responsibility if they're involved in an accident where a car changes lanes or they take a mirror off or something down those lines, because you're not expecting people to be in between two cars when you're traveling.
And look, we love listening to and sharing your thoughts here on the air. It helps other people see differing points of view, whether you agree with them or not. But sending us your thoughts only goes as far as that. So listen, if you're passionate about an issue or a bill that we talk about on the show, tell the lawmakers in Salem about it. They're the ones who can really do something. They are shaping policy there. So we wanted to take a moment to give you a refresher on how you can testify for or against a bill in Salem sitting in your living room if you want. You can do it in person, virtual, or written. And it does work. They hear it and they read it. So you can and should make your voice heard on the issues that you care about. Start by going to the legislature's website. It's www.oregonlegislature.gov. And on the middle left of the homepage, you'll find the Make Your Voice Heard section. Those links will show you the steps that you need to take to submit your testimony. You'll need to know the bill information. By the way, on the lane splitting bill, it's Senate Bill 422. They also call it SB 422. It's currently in the Senate Judiciary Committee, and it does not have any scheduled hearings coming up, which is kind of a bad sign sometimes. So you may need to wait until there's a hearing set to submit your thoughts. If you're confused by any of the instructions on the website when it comes to testimony, we have a resource for you. We did a great how-to step-by-step instructional video around the beginning of the session so that you can watch on your own time and at your own pace anytime on your own KGW YouTube channel. Just look for the story section on KGW on YouTube. Still to come on the story. A $25 million federal grant is being split up between more than a dozen universities to promote nuclear forensic science. But what exactly does that mean? And why is it important to the future of the world? And by the way, Oregon State University is getting some of that money. We're checking on their program when the story returns. Oregon State University is cultivating the next generation of scientists, specifically those in the field of nuclear forensics. OSU joins 15 other universities focused on researching new technology for nuclear security and non-proliferation. Tim Gordon has our story.
Like it or not, we live in a nuclear world, whether it's used for power generation or for weapons we hope are never used. So who investigates nuclear material to determine its source, trafficking, enrichment, and intended use to keep things as safe as possible? Nuclear forensic scientists do, basically acting like detectives.
The difference being, in this case, the signature or the fingerprint, so to speak, is nuclear in nature.
Oregon State University's Camille Palmer is a leader in the field and now deputy director of the 16 university consortium, including OSU, that will use a $25 million federal grant to teach and to develop new ways to investigate the powerful material. Applications include energy production at nuclear power plants.
But I think contributing to the greater good of society and ensuring that we can get all of the good, clean energy out, but also do that in a way that ensures that material is not being misused, not being diverted.
Also to how nuclear weapons programs and treaties are monitored in a world with big concerns in places like Iran and North Korea, and where just this week Russian President Vladimir Putin suspended Moscow's participation in the last remaining nuclear arms reduction deal between the U.S. and Russia.
The weapons are here, they are a threat, and I think anything we can do to help support negotiations, to verify whether international treaties or bilateral agreements, is a good step in the right direction.
Important work growing the field and teaching the next generation of nuclear forensic scientists across the country, including here in Oregon.
Oregon State is very well known as an engineering school. We have the nuclear engineering program here, and I think it complements well the computer science specialties as well.
Tim Gordon, KGW News.
Way to go, Oregon State. I always get nervous when I think about nuclear bombs and things like that, so I'm glad you're on it. All right, keep sending your question and comments to the story at kgw.com. We're going to wrap things up right after this. The KGW Great Food Drive is underway. So far, we've provided over 250,000 meals. but our goal is 1.2 million. Last year, Oregon Food Bank distributed 78 million meals. And all this week, when you give, Rivermark Community Credit Union will double your donation. That's pretty cool. And for all the ways to donate, or if you need food assistance yourself, visit kgw.com/food drive. We also want to thank local Toyota dealers, Pacific Office Automation, and Safeway for supporting this year's food drive. Well, that's the end of our show. Thanks so much for watching. And remember, the story, our story, well, that never ends. I'll see you tomorrow.
This is KGW News at 6.